Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again to celebrate 25 years of Raising Heroes in Jamaica. My name is Kamika Clark, and I'm the agency director here in Jamaica. I'm proud to have been a beneficiary of an education savings plan a really long time ago, and to be working with our dedicated team to bring you the solution to the challenges to the cost of funding your children's post-secondary education. We've invited our Manager of Sales and Distribution of International Business, Maureen Segri-Lyon, to share a little bit with you about the plan. So I'm going to ask Maureen to join us on screen.
Thank you, Kamika, and welcome to our viewers. Thank you if you're rejoining us. Thank you for coming back, and if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Heritage really is a company that exists, and we exist to assist parents and grandparents saving for their children's post-secondary education. Our goal is to provide a solution to the ever-increasing cost of post-secondary studies. The Heritage International Scholarship Trust Plan is a long-term structured savings plan that is denominated in US dollars. And depending on affordability, parents, grandparents, or any interested adults agree to set aside a certain amount on a regular basis, be it monthly or annual, or in some cases on a lump sum basis. Contributions from our subscribers are pooled and invested primarily in government-backed securities, which are lower risk investment vehicles. Part of the income earned on the investment is further invested in equities to maximize returns. In the year that the child turns 18, all savings, less fees, are returned to our customers. And this is typically in the year when the child begins post-secondary studies. It means, therefore, that funds become available when they're needed most, and they're generally used to offset the cost of the first years of studies in a post-secondary program. In the second, third, and fourth years of study, the foundation pays educational assistance payments directly to students in US dollars to assist in offsetting the cost for the next 3 years. These payments are not limited to tuition. They may be used for any related cost, be it computers, books, boarding, transportation, etc. We are extremely proud of how, I'll say that again. We are extremely proud to have been the first company in Jamaica to offer a dedicated post-secondary education savings plan. Being a part of this amazing journey, assisting thousands of families over the last 25 years, has been truly, truly rewarding. Since inception in Jamaica, we've returned over 57 million US dollars in savings and educational assistance payments to Jamaican families. So again, I'll say that 57 million US dollars, and we're counting. To our customers or viewers, thank you for the confidence that you've placed in us. We look forward to the years ahead as we continue our mission of inspiring students to realize life's possibilities by enabling families maximize their education savings through our dedicated team of education savings plan specialists. Kamika, on behalf of the entire management team here in Canada, I just want to say many thanks to you and your team for the tremendous job that you're doing in assisting families in securing brighter futures for their children. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to you, Kamika. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. We too are proud of our years in Jamaica and the support that we receive from our home office team. In honor of our anniversary, we have launched this 5-part web series. Our goal through this series is to learn from the journeys of our 5 young heroes and to gain some insight from experts as to how we as parents can raise the next generation of heroes. If you missed last week's episode, you can still catch us on Facebook and YouTube. I know I made great notes on how to help my children pursue their passions while balancing academics. And today we're going to start off with an interview with a young environmentalist who's pursuing her passion for environmental science. We're also going to be talking with Nadia Lewis-Gorton, an education consultant and homeschooling mom, who's going to be sharing her insights on alternative approaches to education. And I have to say, please stay tuned for all of us who are struggling with balancing this whole notion of virtual school. It really will be worthwhile. I know my brief conversation this morning just set me on a much better path. Both are actually going to be speaking with us today from across the pond in England. Make sure through the broadcast that you take the opportunity to click in the comments to access our free downloadable guide of resources and share with your network. Part 1 has great free learning tools, and Part 2 is going to include great tips from all of our experts we're working to compile. Also, keep an eye out during the program for the special code to enter to win a Samsung tablet, which will be drawn at the end of the series. At the core of our success is a team of dedicated sales representatives who really work hard to do the best for their clients. And we'll be sharing through the series some memorable moments from them, from some of our longest serving reps. So we'll start off with a moment from Marie Samuels, one of our sales managers.
Hi everyone, I'm so happy to be a part of this 25-year celebration, and I am proud to say I have enrolled 2 generations. I enrolled Sharon, and she subsequently enrolled her grandchildren, and I am so happy. She ended up saying she's sorry she didn't do more for her child, so now she's doing the maximum for her grandchildren.
Thank you so much, Marie, for your many years of service. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you all that this program has to offer. While the series is live, one of our outstanding beneficiaries is overseas in London, and we had to contend with the major time difference, and she's so keen to do her best in her studies. So we actually met earlier in a recorded interview. So we're going to share that with you now, and you'll get a chance to get to know Deanna Rose. Our guest for tonight is Deanna Rose. She's one of Jamaica's 2020 Chevening Scholars and a Heritage alumnus. She attributes her success thus far to the 4 C's: curiosity, commitment, community, and compassion. Born in Manchester and a proud 90s kid, Deanna's childhood curiosity was nurtured through countless days playing outside, mornings in the garden with her dad, and unraveling her talent in piano with her mom. Through the discipline but loving guidance of her parents and wider community, she excelled in school and earned many distinctions in her music exams, often gaining the highest mark in the island. Her discipline was further refined at Manchester High School, where she served in the cadet unit for 6 years and played in the drum corps. Deanna later matriculated to the University of the West Indies, where she pursued a Bachelor of Science in Food Chemistry, and in her spare time got involved in intra-hall sports and campus outreach activities. After graduating in 2014, Deanna landed a job in an environmental research facility, which undoubtedly further deepened her passion for the environment and her desire to protect it. She's currently pursuing the MC of Environmental Monitoring and Assessment, Master of Science in Environmental Monitoring and Assessment at the University of Southampton through the Chevening Scholarship, with the intention to promote the environmentally conscious advancement of Jamaica. Tonight, we're proud to recognize her as one of our heritage heroes, as a young woman who has done great work in making a difference in her country already. Welcome, Deanna. We're so glad that you're here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. A pleasure.
And I'm really glad you're here. And I should say that you're coming to us from London, from England, and we're operating with a time change. So we're really glad that you're able to accommodate us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say, it's reading your story is just fascinating in understanding how it is that you came to into science. Tell me a little bit about 5-year-old Deanna. What ambitions did she have when she was growing up?
Very different ambitions, I must say. I wanted to do just about any and everything, but 2 things that have not happened in my pathway. One was becoming a firefighter. Another was becoming a chef. Well, I do love to cook, so I still have that as a bonus, but yeah. I also love to watch Life in the ER that used to come on TLC. So that was like surgeries and emergency issues with people falling from buildings and breaking body parts. And I love to watch emergency surgery. But I guess medicine was just not in my path after a while, because when I was supposed to choose my subjects and CXC, and then go on to Cape and select the universities that I wanted to study at. It wasn't appealing to me anymore, but the environment never really crossed my mind. Environmental science did not cross my mind. It was more so to help people because there were situations in my close circle where persons were getting really sick from various illnesses, and I wanted to use food as a part of, of a way to heal people. So that's why I chose food chemistry at the University of the West Indies. So that was my rationale for that.
Well, food chemistry, there's a big leap from food chemistry into the environmental sciences, and I'm curious to know what that transition looked like, because those are big shifts from firefighter to food chemist to environmentalist.
Yes, so food chemistry has a root in analytical chemistry, so looking at particular things, particular elements that are essential for our nutrition. So that's how I was able to land the job at this environmental research facility, because they were doing studies on ground provisions, water, soils as well. And soils, if we have healthy soils, that means we have healthy food. So my analytical chemistry background from my undergraduate studies allowed me to get that job. And just after being around the environment, going on field trips to whether it's like a farm or in the mangroves or out by the harbor, that totally changed the trajectory of my desire to I mean, I want to help people, but help people by having a healthy environment, and it was from then.
It's interesting what you say about.
Pardon me?
I was just saying what you were saying about the soil contributing to health of the food. That makes sense, that everything that we do is connected with the food. I cut you off though, continue.
That's fine, because if we have a healthy environment, healthy air, clean water, and food that's not tainted by harmful chemicals, that means that we'll have a healthier person, we'll have a healthier human being. But we're having soil degradation, we're having polluted air, polluted waterways, whether it be sewage or plastics, and especially plastics. Seeing plastics in the ocean for me was such a shocker, because I'm coming from rural Jamaica, seeing a beautiful beach, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing plastics. That was something that was so mind-boggling to me, and it was from then on I was saying, all right, let me take on a project. I had gotten this opportunity from the Director General, who had encouraged young persons who were in the facility to take on projects of their own, and that was what sparked my interest. And I shared it with a friend of mine, and she's like, yeah, man, go for it. And yeah, I decided to pursue microplastics, which are tiny bits of plastics that are broken up from larger pieces of plastic bags, plastic bottles, plastic straws. And they're tinier than the plastic bottles, so of course fish can eat them. Microbes can grow on them and carry diseases. Fish and birds are well known for eating them. Their stomachs are full of plastic. And one day when we were on the harbor, we saw a crocodile, and the crocodile was dead because he was suffocated from a plastic bag. But just a little rewind. In my interest, I approached Professor Mona Webber. She's a renowned marine biologist in Jamaica. And she too had an interest in the perfect time when I did. Yeah. And we partnered together and did this project. So we looked at how likely fish would be eating these plastics, because fish feed on plankton and are like at the base of the marine food chain, and they're found in the surface waters of oceans and seas. And when you have fish eating the plastics, then you're going to have concerns about human health now, because
Right.
whatever's on the plastics is very likely to impact the health of the fish and inadvertently impact what we are eating, you know? So those were some of the questions that we wanted to answer. And it was the first study that was done in the island of that nature. It has been done other places in the world, but we had no record of microplastic pollution in Jamaica. So we wanted to create
Jamaica, but we're interconnected.
Definitely. So we wanted to create some baseline studies, but further studies in impacting food, livelihood, and connecting the dots. Somebody discards a bottle throwing it out the window of their car. The breeze and water takes it down to the harbor through either the gullies, or somebody throws it in a river and it channels it right down to the harbor. So we wanted to connect those dots.
Right. And it sounds like your work was really well timed in terms of the ban on plastics that we now have that's official here in Jamaica. I understand you were at the table for some of those conversations. How do you think your research informed the dialogue?
All right, so the dialogue actually began before the study. In 2016, this ban was tabled by Matthew Samuda, a senator at the time. And it was basically his concern, his observation that, we're having all of this flooding happening by Marcus Garvey Drive as a result of the plastics. That was one concern.
Oh, okay.
And if you should drive down by the harbor after the rain falls, you'll see how much garbage is there. International Coastal Cleanup Day, you're taking out people's diapers, shoes, you name it, it's all there, right? And ecologists, marine biologists have been raising the alarm for many a time, and it was quite overdue in my opinion, you know. But after we started our project, I was able to meet with people from Nepal, the US EPA, the Recycling Partners of Jamaica. We had a workshop about marine litter and marine pollution. And I was able to share some of the perspectives of microplastic pollution. And, these persons are also associates of people who are at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. That before we recently broke off, and it's now the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. But prior to that, this facet of the environment was under the responsibility of the Ministry of Economic Growth. And these persons were also in the audience. And, we were able to share perspectives on pollution, and also some of the research that the university was doing, and some of the activities that the university was doing in terms of recycling plastic bottles and, giving an academic perspective of the situation.
To something that everyone is already passionate about. And I think what you described too is something that we as consumers don't think about. And maybe we're starting to become more socially conscious, but the fact that that one plastic bottle or that one plastic bag blocks the channels outward, but also will have a lasting impact on the food that we eat on a daily basis. It's really incredible. Tell me, with your latest achievement, well, let me look back a little bit first, because part of what we want to do is talk about heroes and what it is that you're accomplishing. I think by enlightening us and educating us and furthering yourself in terms of your education so you can further inform what we do here in Jamaica is a big deal. But that's my opinion. I'd love your sense, whether it's in your personal or professional life. What would you consider to be your big hero moment that you're most proud of?
I'm sorry, it broke up a while ago. Could you please repeat that last part?
Sure. I'm asking what you would consider to be your personal hero moment, your biggest accomplishment, whether personally or professionally.
I believe my biggest accomplishment was publishing that paper. That was something that is a huge thing, because publishing in a journal that other seasoned scientists are publishing in for people who have been doing science for decades. And for someone as new as I would say, being able to, take on a study that was not in her field, her initial studies, and learn more about it, get down to the grit of it, push through all of the obstacles that were there, and actually get it published. I must say that has been my second biggest accomplishment, and accomplishing the Shevening Scholarship. Yes, that by far has been my biggest accomplishment.
Your smile just got really wide and big. So you're excited about starting on this journey. I know you're in your early days in school and are working to settle in. I'm fast forward. What is your next big move? Once you've completed this work, how long is the program, by the way?
The program is just a year.
A year, okay.
In October 2021, I should be finished with my dissertation and finish my MSc.
That's incredible. And so what's your next big move after that? What do you see yourself achieving?
I definitely want to return. Well, we have to, and I definitely want to return to Jamaica and bring new knowledge, because the UK, probably other countries too, but the UK has been one of the top countries, in the way in which they value their environment. It's just innate. You go outside and the parks are clean. You go outside and you're seeing people like are observing and respecting their environment, and they get opportunities to appreciate it. So going back to Jamaica, I want to take new knowledge, new tools, environmental management tools, to help certain things, like especially we're looking for the Sustainable Development Goals in another 10 years, and we have some work to do in terms of pollution reduction. That's something I want to work in. So whether by research or actual going out into the field and implementing projects that will reduce pollution, and it really is a change of behavior. So understanding why we are just throwing things away in the wrong place, and helping and just encouraging Jamaicans to have a greater appreciation for their environment, showing our interconnectivity, and just increasing that passion for the environment. We're so passionate about our own home country, especially when we're going out in the Olympics and running. I want us to be equally as passionate about the environment, and I want to carry that attitude and share with others.
Well, we are the land of wood and water, and we really have to take care of it. We have to take care of it. It's interesting that we're having this conversation today. Yesterday, I was working from home and helping my son with because we have science lab at the kitchen table, and looking at the steps of hypothesis, theories, all of that kind of stuff. I can't imagine, at that age, at 9, what his future would look like. What words of advice can you give to young people who might have an interest in the sciences but might be hesitant to commit to something like that?
Just explore. Honestly, science is the art, is the hard art of creativity, if I might put it that way. You have the creative arts, painting and so on, but it's curiosity in its biggest form, and just explore. If you're curious about something, explore. If you want to know why the bread turns brown in the toaster, it's not because it's burning. There's a chemical reaction going. Google it. If you want to know what's below the soil, if you want to see what earthworms are doing, just go outside, dig up some soil, look at the earthworms, understand, just go and explore, get hands in on it. And it's a tremendous way to remain curious. Science is a never-ending space of answering questions and then having questions to those answers. So just go ahead and explore.
It's interesting what you say. It's the art of being curious. Again, homework the other night was answering the question, what is science? And I don't think that a young child kind of takes away that it's about having a question and going away and trying to find the answer as to why something happens the way it does. So I really appreciate you putting it that way. Thank you. So as a parent then, what would you recommend that we do to help nurture that love of science in our kids?
I will use the example with my dad and I. So he has a background in engineering, and the basis of that is physics. So I think spending a lot of time on doing just interesting little projects, getting a book on science projects, and just spending time with your kids. I think I'm grateful for growing up in the 90s and early 2000s because we didn't have necessarily the influence of technology as it is now. It does hold relevance, no doubt. However, hands-on things help solidify certain concepts. So actually doing tangible experiments, solidify certain principles. And I enjoyed a lot of those moments with my dad.
It's interesting. Go ahead, a simple.
I remember we did an experiment on sundials. That's how people used to tell time back in the day. And we cut a piece of board and we stuck a pencil in it. And at each hour went outside and the pencil would cast a shadow and we'd just draw a line at a particular time. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock. And we were able to use that sundial to tell time. That was a science experiment I remember that I did with Daddy. Yeah. So
yeah,
doing tangible things like that help to solidify certain concepts, and it leaves lasting memories, just like it did.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need to have chemicals or a science lab. It's really just trying and exploring the world.
Definitely.
And I think in this time, we're in COVID time, we're doing this virtually, but in this time when we're all looking for ways to get our kids offline, when we're looking for ways to spend time with them, doing an experiment of some kind, exploring and asking a question. It sounds like a great big thing to put on the to-do list is to carve out time to do that.
Definitely, I agree.
Wow. I'm going to ask you another question because we had a little pre-chat and you mentioned, discipline was really important for you. And I hear you talking about, you mentioned music and your work in the cadets. Tell me how that fostered discipline in you and how you apply that maybe even to your work in science.
Okay. My parents are disciplinarians themselves.
Okay.
Started from no nonsense, they're very loving people, but they didn't stand for foolishness, and they wanted things done the right way. Do it right, and you do it once. So that's the fundamentals of discipline. Doing it your best and doing it right the first time. So it's a part of preparation. So you're preparing yourself for particularly an exam. You don't wait till the last minute to study. Reading week on, week off, week on, and that gradual buildup of knowledge. You don't have to hammer yourself the night before the exam. And another thing was cadets. Oh, I should go before music. So definitely, if you're going to learn a piece, you definitely have to practice, 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 practice. My mom's mantra, and her students would echo this too, is that practice makes permanent. Practice, you have to play it over. If you make a mistake in the third line, you have to start over from the top because you have to get an understanding of why you're making that mistake. So if you get the first and second line right and you're still stuck on the third line, do that third line over and over and over till you get it. And then you start over. And it's really just doing your best, giving it your best shot. And preparation is key for that. And cadets has left a lasting impression in that case too. Of course, there's no smiling, there's no skiffling or idling. You have to be attentive, alert, And even in your deportment, your dress, ensure that you're dressing neatly. You shine your shoes when you're going to training after school. You keep your shoes clean, you keep your uniform clean. There's no threads that are idle. Those things we used to get in trouble for.
Right.
And we might have found it harsh, but putting yourself forward in the best way creates a lasting first impression. First impressions really give a statement about who you are. It's your resume. This is your resume before you even either share your resume by paper or you have a conversation like this, And those are some of the fundamentals of discipline. You presenting yourself in the best way. You're giving yourself the best shot, and you're preparing yourself for that opportunity. So yeah.
Wow, that's a perfect statement, and that it's interesting. I can't believe we've run out of time, but I'm looking at we've started off talking about science and the hard. It's a hard subject. And a lot of parents don't take those extracurriculars seriously, the specialist subjects, the arts, the music, cadets. But I can see how those too have helped to inform your core subjects. And that's something else certainly that I take away, is to be able to encourage and foster that in my children. So I would say, Deanna Rose, that your parents did a great job in helping to shape you into someone that I know is going to make a big difference in this world. Can't wait to have you back here so that you can start to put your stamp on the direction that we had going forward. I look forward to seeing what you accomplish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Yes,
wow.
I must say that the community that I have as well, my parents' community, is also important in shaping me. And it really resonated, that message about you're the average of the persons that you spend the most time with. And it's important as parents to guard their association because it impacts their kids as well.
Yeah, the village.
The village definitely raised me, and I'm happy, and I love my village very much.
Wow.
Human being. What a very special human being. I'm so glad that Deanna spent her time with us, and I feel like I took so much away from her. I'm sorry she's not physically here to get this yet, but we're going to be presenting her with this this framed piece and delivering that to her parents, so it's here when she does come home and she can hang that somewhere in pride. This is a piece by Everard Palmer, and I love his work. And can I say that we have a science project as a result of this planned for the weekend. We're going to create a speaker out of a toilet paper roll and a cup, 2 cups. So wish us luck. I hope that works out well. But we're going to do some exploration of science as a result of that conversation with Deanna. And so we have, I want to introduce you to our sales representative, Donna Burrell, who's going to share her memorable moment.
My 18 years with Heritage have been so rewarding and fulfilling. My most memorable moment was when I delivered a maturity check to a subscriber who single-handedly made her payments to maturity. When she looked at the check, tears welled up in her eyes, and she exclaimed, "I did it, I did it." And she said, thanks to Heritage, her son is now a medical doctor.
I love these stories. It makes me feel really good about what we do. And I'm so glad to be able to share them with you. So we're going to transition into a little bit of expertise. Earlier this year, we were all faced with a major change in the way we schooled our children. Thrown into it almost overnight. Our homes became the new classroom. And even though it's been a few months, some of us, me included, are still having a big challenge. Our guest tonight, Nadia Lewis-Gorton, is joining us also from London, from England, I should say, to share tips on how we can better manage this transition. She's an education consultant with first-hand experience in homeschooling and has helped other families through a similar change. Dying to talk to her. As an active member of the Jamaica Homeschoolers Association, she has great insight into the challenges Jamaican families are facing trying to navigate distance learning and tons of experience. And she can really help guide those of us who wish to go further in practicing true homeschooling. So I hope you come armed with your questions, because tonight we're really here to learn. Thank you so much for being here this evening with us, Deanna, and it's tonight for you. It's some ungodly hour, and I really appreciate you hanging tight with us. So many questions to ask you, but the first, I think, is that we sometimes maybe use homeschooling and distance learning interchangeably, but I know there are marked differences. Can you just highlight them for us?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. So that said, some of the marked differences between homeschooling and what's been foisted upon us, I guess, schooling at home or distance learning, is that with distance learning, it is teacher-led. It is not focused on an individual student, but a group of students. There is a set time and a set curriculum that is designed by someone else for you. And it is time bound. You have to finish it at a certain time because you have exams and so on attached. Whereas with homeschooling, it is you're in charge of your own curriculum. You can create it however you wish. You can learn anytime, anywhere. You can use a curriculum that is based on religion or teaching philosophy or just a subject that you're interested in. So pretty much the main difference is that with homeschooling, with what we would consider true homeschooling, is that you get to curate your child's educational experience, and you are in charge of what happens, when it happens, and how it happens.
And it's interesting that you describe that it's something that is not directed by anyone else, that it's something you own. We've been thrust into this right now.
Yes,
we don't have a choice, and we're just kind of being drug along. And I think the teachers are doing a lot of dragging as well. But what advice? I think the changes affect our children even more than they do us. So can you give me some ideas perhaps as to how parents can assist a child who might be resistant to the idea of homeschooling or distant learning?
Okay, sure. What I would say is the very first thing you would need to do is find out what is it that they're resistant to, because it won't be the whole concept. It might be that they're missing their friends, or there are too many little faces on the screen and that's distracting. Find out what it is exactly that's going on. It might be, oh, they can't take the book to the teacher to get it marked right away, or they can't, if they miss something the teacher said, they can't look at their friend and say, oh, what did she say, or show me how to do that. So you have to find out what it is exactly that they're resistant to and what the problem is, and then address that. The second thing I would create a safe space for your child's feelings, because we might think it minor, but the fact that he or she's not going to school to see Chloe today is a big deal. They're not going to see Mr. Tom, who's the security guard, that just give them a joke or something every day. All of that stuff is a big deal. They've lost their friends, they've lost playtime. Allow them to grieve that loss. I say take it slow. Don't try and recreate school, especially if you're transitioning to homeschooling and not distance learning. So do not try to recreate school. It's new for both of you, so it will be stressful and frustrating if you try to create school or what you think school is, because oftentimes as a parent, you still don't know what school is. You have an idea of what you think happen at school, but you really don't know. And be flexible with your expectations. Teaching and learning might not look the way you think, and they're not going to get something the very first time you tell them. They don't get it at school, they won't get it at home. It's the very first time you show them something, they won't get it. So just be flexible in your expectations of how that will play out. And it won't be roses and rainbows every day. So don't have that expectation that because you're home with your child is going to be all rainbows and flowers.
It's kind of painful at times, yes. Tell me though, because I know that there, I can see homeschooling and distance learning for an older child, but can you describe maybe some of the challenges of homeschooling a child in the younger age group, 3 and 4, and what parents might want to consider?
Okay. Homeschooling a child 3 and 4, I would say do a lot of play. And a lot of learning happens through play, and it's not about sitting down with the notebook and with the exercise book right away and doing work and doing worksheets. So I would say think about what it is you're trying to teach. So you're trying to teach counting, and they're little ones. You're not necessarily going to go directly into writing 1, 2, 3 on the board, or even showing them the symbol that represents 1, 2, 3. But you're going out walking, you're counting leaves, you're counting stones, you're singing songs, and then you transition that to a physical, tangible thing, and then to the shape that represents that song or those numbers that you've been singing. You've been singing and so on. So a lot of it will come through play and through conversation, and even writing with a stick in the dirt or with salt or in sand with just your fingers and things like that. They will learn just as much, if not more,
than on a worksheet.
Or if you're just bringing them straight to the rule sheet and saying, okay, copy A, B, C, D, E, because it's still kind of abstract. So it's a lot of playing and bringing it together when they're younger.
And I can see that if I'm leading it, I'm also trying to take that away. If I've got a teacher leading at home, that's how I can help to reinforce the learning, right? Is that what I could take away as well?
Yes, exactly. If they're at school, the same things that you would do if you're homeschooling full-time. As a parent, you can still do those things. And then it's more fun. It's reinforcing what the teacher is doing, but it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like homework. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're still doing school.
So that work feels like a fight sometimes, right?
Yes, it will.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I worry about most, looking at my youngest one, is that I think there's a passion for learning there and a desire to being very bright. And we worry sometimes that if we're now in this distance learning mode, that, suddenly they lose that spark, they lose their love of learning. Are there any tips that you can offer us in terms of how we might keep them interested in learning?
Okay. Yes, what I would say is that remember that first thing, that learning does not mean you have to use a textbook. So the fact that he or she's not using the textbook or doing worksheets every day doesn't necessarily mean they lose their desire for learning. What I would say in maintaining the learning is do it in a different way, a less intrusive way, and something that's more fun. So audiobooks, depending on the age of your child, because with audiobooks, they get a lot in faster and you can vary it. So it doesn't have to be novels or a textbook. It can be an autobiography. It can be anything. And they get a lot more of it, and they get to do it as they go along and do other things. Especially with older kids, the audiobooks are great. For younger kids, it could be audio bedtime stories as well. And then you just ask questions about that. How you keep learning going. With younger kids, it could be Wildcrafts. They're watching cartoons, and you go about like what happened first, what happened next, and so on, because then you're practicing retelling and recall, which is something they would do in school anyway, but they would do it with a comprehension or a comprehension sheet. What happened first, what happened next, recall the story for me, who did what, why do you think they did that? And the same skills are being practiced.
They're just filling it out on paper, and they got to watch a cartoon.
Right. With older kids, there are lots of interesting documentaries on Netflix. So now you have, I think it's called Broken. You've got Broken, you've got Social Dilemma. and you've got quite a few. And if you're into environmental management or business studies, they're doing that. Those help. And it doesn't feel like harsh learning, like, traditional learning, but it is things that they apply right back to the textbook. You can look at, if they're doing business studies, again, for instance, you can look at Facebook and how they took over Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp. What kind of were those mergers or acquisitions? How did it benefit Facebook, and so on? And that sticks better than the textbook that says company A bought out company B. That's so abstract. So they're watching that. It's tools that they're using now. It's something that they're familiar with. And they see the little Facebook thing coming up on Instagram now. So they know that that has happened. They're tangible things that they can relate to. So, and just have conversations about it, not in a testing kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think about this? Oh, that was on the news. What do you think about that? And just help them to form their opinions or express their opinions the way they would in an essay, for example. What's your point? What's the evidence? Explain it, develop it, and have the conversation just as you would write it in an essay, but they're just not writing it out. And then they'll be interested, and it's not just a random thing in a textbook that was written 20, 30 years ago. It's something that's happening now.
Right
and
now,
developing that can be transferred back to the textbook.
Yeah, and I was seeing Andrea's comment about real world examples. I think that's what I'm taking away here is whether it's beach real life tangible for little ones or, for the older ones, the dialogue around current events and engaging them in dinner time conversation, like all of that is learning, and it doesn't just have to be textbook based.
It doesn't have to be textbook. So dinner time in the car.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're going to hang out with them for 5 minutes, it can be conversation. And it could simply be a simple prompt of, hey, did you watch that documentary on Netflix? Did you see this thing on the news? And then they start talking about it, because it doesn't feel like you're testing, but they'll say, yeah. And then you go, what do you think about it?
Yeah. Yeah. So slip it in, sneak it in. And I bet they're watching, so they'll know when I'm slipping in next time, right?
Right. Just slip it in there.
So we kind of all got dragged kicking and screaming into this virtual school thing, right? The distance learning part of it. But what if some of us are, I have to say, I don't know 6 months ago that I would ever have even considered the idea of homeschool as an option, but now I'm in virtual school. What advice would you have to offer parents who are thinking about perhaps transitioning completely to homeschooling? How involved should children be in the process? What does that look like?
Okay, how involved should children be? Very, very involved, because they're the main target of this of the situation. They're the ones that we're trying to teach, or we're wanting them to learn. So they have to be very involved. The involvement also gets their buy-in. So there's less resistance. You spoke about resistance earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If they have bought into to the decision, to the idea, and they're contributing to the decision, they will feel much more comfortable, and it will go easier. It won't be seamless because it's an adjustment for everyone, but it will go easier. What it will also allow you to do as the parent is to address those gaps or things that might form resistance. So what are your child's emotional and social needs?
Mm-hmm.
So you can address those, or you can think about that when you're planning your homeschool curriculum. So some ways to start the conversation around that would be, if you could design your own learning, what would that look like? What do you like about school now? What don't you like? What do you like about online learning? What don't you like? And you ask those questions, and then it will give you feedback as, okay, what subjects can I include? Where might I have a little resistance? So I might need to be a bit more creative. Ask them, what would you like your day to look like? because that might give you an idea of when they learn best. You know, because they might be like, oh, I like mornings because I have more energy, but after lunch. So, you know, okay, I might need to put the math before lunch.
Right.
And do something a little easier, or something that's just revision after lunch, and so on. So their decision or their contribution to the conversation, it's not going to determine the decision you make as the parent, but it helps you to design your homeschool curriculum and what your homeschooling will or won't look like, and get there.
Right. So if I'm thinking about, you know, homeschool for the first time, what are there resources out there that could assist a parent who's inexperienced in teaching to cope and manage that process for the first time?
Yes, there are resources, and there are tons of resources. There are curriculums out there. There are different, you can find curricula like all over the place on different things. You know, you can find that you can design your own. And that's one of the great things about homeschooling. You can design what you want it to look like. So you can take something from a Becca, from an Abeka curriculum, for example, take something from a Becca, create something of your own, take something from a K through 12 American curriculum or a UK curriculum, and you can design your own, and so on. What I would say for a new parent is get books with answer sheet and teaching guides, not because just to boost your own confidence, because you'll be worried, like all along you'll be thinking, am I teaching the right thing? When he goes into the exam, or if he goes back to traditional school, will he be able to fit in? So just to help you, the parent, boost your own confidence, get something with a teaching guide or answer sheets, so you can be like, okay, yes, I have that. Yeah, I did that correctly. I'm not leading him astray. And then once your confidence has been boosted, it will get easier as you go along. The internet is there. There are tons, especially now with what COVID has created. There are just lots of classes online. So you want to teach, say, blend for a younger child, the CH blend or something. There's a video just on that, so you can use that. You want to do chemistry and a particular topic in chemistry, you can find videos, not one, but millions, thousands of videos on that. And so there's that. So
it's there.
Simple history, Cold War, Khan Academy, it's all there. But I think the most important thing would be, do not try to recreate school. You don't have to be the teacher. You know, you can hire a teacher, you can hire a consultant, you can hire a tutor. And what you're doing, it does not need to look like what anybody else is doing.
Yeah, it's unique to you. It's unique to you.
And it's unique to it's unique to you, and it's unique to your child. And you focus on that. And one thing that we've made use of, which I think is great, is call on your village. Use your social capital. So your child is interested in, they're doing business, and they're doing, for example, what's something they're doing?
Ledgers and checks and balances.
Why small countries tend to be like service-based and do offshore banking. If you have somebody who works in the banking industry, call them up and let them have a conversation. So it's real time, it's real information, and it's just not something in a book to say,
that they're reading.
Okay, this is done in Cayman because Cayman is small, blah, 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 and, you know, checking boxes. It's a real conversation where they can ask questions and get feedback. So I say use
the network, the village. Yeah. And even if you're not homeschooling, that's a way of helping make that classroom learning more meaningful as well.
More meaningful, exactly.
Yeah. And I was seeing earlier Tutor Imani saying there's the Jamaican Homeschool Association. So just big props to them and that resource. I would think if I was a homeschooling mom, that would be an amazing village to draw on. So thanks for flagging that. Let me ask this. So, because to me, I feel like homeschooling might actually be more expensive in some respects. Would you say it's more can it be more cost effective for parents?
It can be. It can be, again, because it's unique to you and your child and your situation. It can be as expensive as you want it to be, and it can be as cost effective as you want it to be. So what I would say about that in terms of when you're thinking about money and budget is tally everything you have to pay now: tuition, transportation, lunch, all the miscellaneous fees that you have to pay, all the field trips, all of that. Then you can either do one of two things. You can say, okay, this is it. Okay, so we might not need to spend as much money on lunch, or we're cutting out the transportation cost, and so on. And you can take that out and use, say, the tuition to buy your books and your supplies for your homeschooling. Or you can say, okay, for the term it would have been 200,000. I'm just going to use 100,000 and I'm going to make that work. And I'm going to give 1,000 to Heritage. I'm spending the same I would spend as if they're in traditional school, but at the end of
You're investing for the future.
Right, you will get that money back to help you with something else. But then you might have a parent who is using a unit studies kind of method, and they're like, okay, we're doing Mayan culture or something, and they decide they're going to Peru. That will be expensive, but it is something that they deem valuable in the learning experience.
Yeah.
So,
and life-changing.
And life-changing. So it can be as expensive or as cost-effective as you want it to be.
Yes.
You don't have to do it and plan, because you can run away when you get to like a dollar store or its equivalent. You can go crazy and buy resources that you never ever use.
Right.
So be careful and budget.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions around the homeschooling schedule, and that might maybe enlighten us as parents doing distance learning as well. What does a healthy homeschool schedule look like, and how do you keep them connected in this time?
How do you keep them explain the connected part? Let me just make sure I'm understanding that connection.
I think I'm thinking about a healthy schedule. Yes, what does it look like? But also, if you're homeschooling and maybe a little isolated, how do you connect them to others? How do they not feel isolated when they are learning at home on their own?
Okay. So kind of two parts to that question.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, what does a healthy schedule look like? That, again, there is no set schedule or that it looks like, because it will depend on what your reason for homeschooling is. Because, for example, if you're homeschooling because your child is talented and they want to go to 2024 Olympics or something, and they're doing gymnastics, that schedule might look like 6 hours gymnastics and just 3 hours of academics.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that academics mean less to you. It's just more focused and so on. So it might, it will look different depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. But one thing I will say that must be involved is there must be breaks. There must be breaks, because you'll be tempted to say, oh, but if we start at 8 and we go all the way through, we'll be finished by 12, and then you can have the rest of the day. And that's very tempting to do, but you need, a break. Your brain needs to process. So what I would say, an average class would be 45 minutes to an hour. I say schedule an hour for a session, do 25 minutes, take a 10-minute break, then do 25 minutes of that same subject. Just give your brain some time to process. And then the second 25 minutes, it's kind of going over what you did in the first 25 and making
to reinforce the learning.
You understand and reinforce. And don't try to do 5 subjects a day, maybe as they would in school. 2 or 3 would be fine. Ensure that the schedule includes something that your child is interested in, and that's solely their decision, something they want to learn. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with curriculum or exams. It's
about them.
It's about them.
Yeah.
So I think once you do that, take your breaks. Don't try and do too much at once. And it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Then that will determine what healthy looks like for you and your child.
Great, great. So you've set us up with some good strategies to kind of make that happen. And I think my last question is really about
the connection.
Yeah, the connection and how we allow them to stay connected when they are isolated. What can that look like? Can you give us some ideas?
So what connection can look like? It depends on what your rules and your personal protocols are. That will play a part, how old your child is. So I will say, embrace those multiplayer games on the Xbox.
Yes.
Because they'll get to talk to their friends. I've seen them Zoom and watch things together.
Yeah, that's happening in our house.
Yeah, Zoom and watch things together. You know, for the younger ones, Zoom, or you form a social pod, I would want to call it, with another family. If you're aware of their precautions and their protocol, and then you have an agreement that your 2 kids will play or your 3 kids will play together if they're younger ones. And as long as everybody's in agreement, you can have that decision and do that.
Space.
Right. If it is that your children are older, they could probably hang out together because they have more control in the social distancing. So they can have their chairs the relevant distance apart, wearing masks, and still hang out and talk and laugh and so on. So you can still do that. And as parents, we have to admit that, or understand that during this time, we will kind of have to be your children's playmate.
Yeah.
In some aspects, and not try and control it, but let them lead the play. And as stupid and as weird as it feels, just go along.
Just enjoy it. Yeah. And that's really, I guess, what a great break would look like, is the playtime that you're spending together. To enjoy each other.
Enjoy each other.
And any other big words of advice for parents who might be struggling right now?
Breathe. Breathe. I think that's the main thing. Be careful of be clear on what your struggle is, because everybody's complaining, and it's fun to complain, and it's fun to go online and join the threads and be like, okay, homeschooling is this or online schooling is that. But accept the situation we're in, because it is what we're in. Once you've accepted it, then you can now look at solving certain problems. Yeah. So what exactly is your problem with the online schooling? Is it that your internet is unstable? Or is it that the internet is unstable, or your child doesn't seem to be grasping the information, or just whatever it is? Find out what it is and address that thing. Make some hard decisions and then release it. It might be that data cost is a problem for you. So you will have to say to the teacher, I can't log on for PEs and devotions and some of the other things. They're important, but you can view them as somewhat miscellaneous. I can't log on for those, but I will log on for the classes.
Yeah, that's a really tangible tip, I think, that many of us can take away. Yeah.
And have a conversation with the teacher. If you just do it on your own, you might get resistance because the teacher doesn't know what's happening with you. The principal doesn't know what's happening with you. But say, we will only participate in these classes, or can you send me the thing beforehand so I can brief him or prepare him before he comes to class, because he's having a hard time following while you're doing it. Yeah. So maybe I will do it first, and then once he's online, it's kind of reinforcement and practice. Or he goes to class, you send it to me, we do reinforcement and practice. Join with another parent. Their internet
and work together.
Yours is not. Send me the work. Let me know what's going on. But find out and identify what exactly your problem is, and then address that problem, and not because then it
Everything.
becomes overwhelming and you're just like, oh, it's online learning. But it's really not online learning. It's the neighbor being too loud, or it's my internet is not stable. And then you just address those.
Wow. Wow. Well, I will certainly breathe a little bit more. And I really appreciate the insights that you've offered all of us as parents. I've got some great notes and some good takeaways. And I hope you all did as well out there who are listening. Thank you, Nadia, for taking the time, for staying up so late to be with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
And just really encourage you all to explore the options and try and find what's going to work best for you. I'm going to introduce one more member of our team who's been with us for a really long time, another virtual schooling mom, Stacey Ann Guy, who's a member of our administrative team, and she's going to share her moment.
One of my most rewarding memories is seeing 2 plans through to maturity for a subscriber who had been struggling for 2 years to get his plans reactivated. Through the flexibility that the Heritage Plan offers, I was able to provide him with 2 options to reactivate his plans. He did so, and today his dream was realized as both plans matured and his children are now benefiting from scholarships.
Thank you so much, Stacey, and to all the members of our team who are just doing such a great job. I'm going to really give a big thanks to all of our subscribers who joined us this evening. A reminder to check your emails for the details of an exclusive draw. We have 3 episodes remaining, so look for us right here every Thursday in November at 8 p.m. Not only will we be sharing great content, but you'll have an opportunity, don't forget, to enter your name in our draw for the Samsung tablet. You can enter tonight's draw by clicking on the link and entering the code. Next Thursday, November 12th, we'll be joined by Timothy Winter, who's an Olympic swimmer who represented Jamaica and now a COVID researcher. Definitely a hero in my mind, and a yoga therapist, Trishan Houghton. We're going to be talking about mindset and how to manage children's anxiety. And I'm sure as parents, we can learn a little bit more from her also. And I really invite you to follow us on Facebook to learn more about the series and be the first to access our downloadable parent resources. We're working on a compilation of resources, as I mentioned, from all of our experts. If you have any questions about heritage, to start a plan, to join our team, just call the office at 968-1601 or WhatsApp us at 537-1648. And we'll do our best to get in touch with you and answer all your questions. This has been so interesting. I keep learning a lot. I'm going to say a final thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next week right here. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.